All right, so the goal with this is to make a large slab. So to start that off, remember it's a good idea to wake up the clay. So you can do that either by throwing or kind of like pounding on the clay to start. So that goes from stiffer and now it's kind of more flexible. And I'm also going to throw the slab, letting it go out parallel and then pulling my arms back through this process so it hits flat. I don't want it to hit the corner because, again, that'll create the pancake effect where you get a thick center and a thin edge. Okay, so that was a much better toss. And you can see that it's widening this way. I also want it to stretch this way some too. So my other hand is holding this still while this is helping to stretch the clay. And I'm going to do most of my work for the slab just doing the throws like this if I can keep it from getting too thin on the outside edges. And then the rolling pin is essentially just there to finish it off and make sure that my slab is even. Okay. If it's bigger, you can use both hands. So just like that. There are artists out there that don't even use rolling pins for this process. They just do this, getting it really thin. Okay. I do have an oversized rib, so I'm just going to use that to check. It is not quite even, so I'm going to steal a rolling pin from one of you guys. Okay. Now these sticks are obviously helpful if it's narrow enough, but you can see here that if it's not actually touching these sticks, these are useless. Okay. So I'm just going to kind of roll out, monitoring the thickness just with my eyeballs. And to make sure that it's level, that I don't have waves that go through it, the next roll I'm going to flip it over and then also flip it 90 degrees. Okay? So I rolled it across this way. Now I'm going to roll it 90 degrees that way. With light pressure at this point. And again, flipping and rotating. Okay. I think I used about 3 to 4 pounds of clay for this to get it this big. So just consider how much clay you're using to make sure that you don't have to roll out too many slabs if that's something that's cumbersome or annoying to you. I try to get most of the work done in one. Now, after I get this rolled out, remember what I want to make sure is that this box is not going to be too little so that doing the surface decorations are going to be difficult to fit on a tiny space. Okay? But I'm going to try to create the largest rectangle possible. So I'm going to use these. Make sure that you have straight edges. Some of these sticks warp if you're here in class. So I'm going to cut here. If I want to be perfectly parallel, I'm going to simply take this stick and flip it like this. Okay, slide that just forward a little. And even if I didn't get it perfect, like lining up as far as I could go, I have these little register marks from the texture. I can slide that this way. It's easier to tell if it's like even here to this line versus this cut over here. So I'm going to cut off and save the extra clay. And then same thing here. If I want 90 degrees, I'm going to try to line this up. And then I can also use this stick to help me if it's flat by pushing here on this edge and pushing here. Okay? Okay? Actually, Gabino, this is yours. I stole it from you. You don't necessarily have to be as concerned as I am with being perfect on these lines, as long as it's relatively close. You're going to end up trimming off a lot of the piece, a lot of the edge as you build your box itself. Okay. So from here, I have a pretty sizable slab, if you can see relative to my hand. The first thing I'm going to do is divide this in half. So to do that, I have some guesswork. So I'm going to use this and some sort of writing utensil or marking tool to make my guess. So this looks about halfway to me. So I'm just going to make my mark like that and then darken this so you can see it on the camera. I have my guess right here. So I have the tool on this edge, my guess at the middle. I'm going to move this edge to the middle and then check over here. If you had a correct guess, which I actually did, it should line up right here. Okay? If your mark was under or over that, so say I had a mark that was over here and this is where it marked up on the edge of the slab, then I just go the midpoint here. This is a much smaller guess, right? Do you guys understand that? Okay, but I ended up being correct on my first guess, so I'm just going to take that. If you're worried, you can make a mark on top just to measure, and I'm going to divide this up. Okay? Now, if I'm going to have 2 squares, I'm going to use this same measurement here to here for my 2 end pieces. All right. Now, this side and this side are going to be pretty large. And it looks like with what I have left, I'm going to have kind of a shallow box, which is, I've never made one like that, so I'm going to go for it. So what I'm going to do again, use this. I'm going to make sure that this is on the end. I'm going to take a guess at where the center is, make a mark on my clay, and then I'm going to move this to my center mark on the clay. And here you can see it's just slightly under. So I'm going to move that mark in between where the edge of the clay is and my guess mark is. So there's the correct spot. And I'm going to fix that. So here, slide this over to this point. Which with, again, something that small of a difference, it may not make a difference. If you're way off, though, that's a really helpful tool to make sure that you have even cuts. Okay? So now, I have the 4 rectangular sides of my box, plus a top and bottom. Or this could be something tilted on its side so that it's narrow that way, but these stand to the sides with smaller spaces in between. It's up to you how to create that, but I kind of like the idea of having a wide platform top and bottom. Try to limit how much you move these. You can see that the soft clay is warping already quite a bit, so I'm going to already have to make accommodations and trim extra. But what you're going to do when you leave today is this. You're going to take these with your plastic bag, and you're just simply going to gently stack them. Do not pat them down, anything like that, because it will help. Yeah, you're trying to prevent them from sticking, but you want it to lay level. I did have some students in the other classes put paper towels in between, which is actually a really good idea. And then I also need 3 test tile pieces. So I have some extra clay here. I may not have to roll out more pieces of clay. So let's see, I can... Something like that is about a good size for you to be able to test these techniques out. So if you have to, like this one's a little small, flatten that out. And it doesn't have to be perfect, it's just for testing. So I'm just going to use some tools to make sure that it's at least level. And then I'll cut my third piece. Okay. So I'm going to stack all those, and then I'm going to wrap them in plastic like this.
No, look at the board. The timer in the way.
Oh.
There you go.
Sorry about that. So just wrap them in plastic, keep them flat, and then by the next time when you come in, these are from yesterday, you should have some decent slabs, and you just carefully lift from a corner and check the other sides too to peel those apart. See how I'm kind of like, yeah, just gently, because there's going to be like some parts that do stick a little. There we go. And even from yesterday, this is still pretty soft. The whole point of leather hard is to make sure you can hold it from the bottom here, and that shape is held up. It doesn't like fall, okay? So this is almost there. These ones are definitely even softer, okay? So go ahead. You have about 7 minutes left.